Okay, so it's just a follow-up video to my earlier, sort of a daily vlog update. See a lot of comments, people dropping them. I know I had to remove like one or two because it wasn't just that it was matter of like, being offensive or so. I just, I don't know. I see that there are terms out there like, okay, we'll go with the one that was specific to the comment. The term simp. The usage of that. I don't know. I feel that's kind of like it's almost like the equivalent of calling a woman a gold digger. I don't know exactly like how to articulate like why I don't really care for that term being used. It's not just a matter of it being lobbed at me. I'm sure the person who dropped that there, he or she hasn't probably seen a lot of my content, a lot of my videos. They watch one video and they go, "Oh, this guy's got feelings for some girl. Oh, he's getting bent out of shape about that. Oh, what a simp." And it's sort of like, look, like, I think this is kind of like one of the problems with a lot of folks who are either, and I don't know if this person, identifies as red pill or MGTOW or, whatever label they might want to place upon themselves to, describe their viewpoint. But, I mean, truth is, I think it's kind of like a representative of a larger problem that I see with a lot of folks who want to throw around these sorts of terms. And, maybe it's an age bracket, sort of thing. Maybe it's an age issue, a maturity issue. But, it's kind of like, it's sort of something I've kind of been thinking about. That it's almost like if, and I know Rollo has commented on this, so has Ryan Stone and others. It's almost like, you want to be in a healthy, functional relationship as a guy. It's sort of like, yeah, you got to be alpha, but like kind of with the side of beta. And I think a lot of guys sort of have that that sort of problem where they want to swing to one extreme or another. Most guys, it seems, they really do go full on beta, and it's like, and I honestly used to be like this, and I know that person left the comment. They don't know me. They don't know me well enough. They don't know me to the extent, let's say, Dark Magician or Alex, does. Or they've seen sort of my journey through life over the last, few years, and understand that, if this person thinks I'm a quote unquote simp right now, I mean, I'm way the heck different than I was, 3-4 years ago. But I think the problem is sort of like that, any sort of expression of like emotional attachment or interest in a particular woman, for a lot of guys out there, it seems like, if they want to like label themselves as red pill, like almost like red pill meatheads, it's almost like, like, I don't know. They see that as weakness. They see that as an indication that you're like some weak excuse for a man. And I think it's also sort of another symptom of a greater problem. We have all this talk about beta bucks and, don't be a simp, bro. Don't simp for her, and don't get attached, don't get one-itis, blah blah blah. But there's also the other end of that spectrum, the extreme other end, where it's like any sort of like emotional interest or attachment or whatever to some girl, even if she's, God forbid, your wife of 20 years or a girlfriend you've been dating for 3 or 4 years who you could see yourself getting married to, or some girl who checks off enough boxes that you'd be interested in pursuing things with her, and you're trying to figure things out, and you're thinking like, oh, did what I do cause this or that, or kind of like taking things on your own shoulder, and like, Dark Magician would say, internalizing the causes or the reasons, or I think that's how you put it, but basically saying, oh, it must be because I did something. Look, truth is, there's this thing called the reproductive problem. And whether or not you guys want to admit that you're like dealing with it or contending with it or being challenged by it or having to try and solve it, or you feel like you're making progress, or you're the master of that, you're this sort of like Don Juan, Casanova type guy. Truth is, we're all contending with that. And so much of my thoughts and the things, like when I'll ask that question, did something I do, cause the lack of interest or so, or something to change or so, it's sort of me like thinking out loud, okay, like how do I solve this freaking problem? I'm not the kind of guy who wants to go and just nail a bunch of different women in the actual sense, okay? I'm not trying to sleep around. I'm not trying to just get after it with as many. Yeah, there's that desire there, obviously, like, because you're a human being, but when it comes to, like, that sort of resolution of conflict between your super ego and your id, I mean, the way it would manifest for me would obviously be me getting married, having a wife, having kids, raising a family, hopefully learning from the mistakes of others, including in my family, and being able to improve on that, and not make dumb mistakes myself. Obviously, like, I don't want to be the henpecked husband who's beta bucks and having to sort of be his wife's footstool and bending over backwards for her just to like try and keep wifey poo happy. I don't want to be that. But at the same time, it's kind of like if you ever do get into some long-term committed relationship where you're looking to, you're going to consider the fact that a lot of your decisions, there'll be a lot of your decisions that you'll have to make thinking about the good of your wife, your kids, your family. And in some people's minds, even doing that once makes you a simp, makes you a wimp, makes you a footstool or a wet noodle or whatever. Because they'll take it to the extreme of like, never ever make a decision, because you think it's gonna, facilitate, your relationship or your family's well-being or anybody, you always only be thinking about yourself 100%. Never be concerned with, whether or not this, makes things easier for you and this girl or whatever the heck, or your wife or whatever. They'll take it to that extreme where it's like if you even consider that or even think about that, suddenly you're a simp. And you know what? No, I'm not a simp. I'm a guy. And so much of this boils down to the fact that, look, I'm 34. I've done this whole waiting until marriage thing all these years, and I want to find a woman, and I want to get married, and I want to have kids. All right. And if I have issues trying to get with some girl, or wondering, hey, what the effects of my actions, or what's really going on here, or is she in a relationship, is she taken, is this, is that, obviously I'm not going to take this to the extent that I'm going to lose my job, because I'm sure you haven't watched any of my other videos, and that's all fine, because a lot of it is just me talking about my life, and I'm sure, like, for most people out there, they don't care. It's not something of interest to them. That's fine. It's like a lot of what I see with many Nofap YouTubers, now I'm guilty of this myself, is that sort of like, you tack on the title Nofap onto your videos, and yeah, it gets you, increase in sort of impressions, let's say, or number of people who see your video, are exposed to it, watch your content, that sort of deal, just like any other sort of catchy title. And we do that, but so much of the time we're not really talking about Nofap itself. We're talking about secondary or tertiary issues, and it's stuff that most people just are not interested in. And that's all right. Nobody has to watch my videos. Nobody has to like, comment, subscribe, yada yada. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to have any interest in what's going on in my life, or my romantic travails, or ups and downs, or how my career is going, or education, or what I'm struggling with, or whatever. But again, like, I have to solve this problem, and this is under the sort of the umbrella in part of Nofap. Because honestly, like, you have this desire here, and unless you find that iron will, or that will of steel, carbon steel, unbreakable, eternally durable will that will never bend or break or deform or fracture, or fail, you're going to have to find an outlet eventually for this desire. And, some people in the NoFap community take things to the extent where they almost pathologize desire and romance and, sexual interest and all that kind of stuff. But for the vast majority of us, we have to solve this problem. And that means actually being able to develop the kinds of skills, knowledge, approach, ability, characteristics, traits, qualities that would make a woman actually want to get with you. And not just get with you in the short term, but stick around the long term, have kids with you, raise them with you, not divorce you, not drag you through the divorce courts and take you through the cleaners, but actually want to stick by your side. And yeah, I know there will be folks out there, black pill doomers, and I've been in that state myself. Okay, so I can understand why they're saying what they say, or where they're coming from. Just like I can understand to a certain extent, the folks who want to hop on my channel and leave comments like calling me a simp, or saying I'm like obsessed with this girl or that girl, which or that I need to get a life or whatever. I can understand from a certain angle, to a certain extent, why people would think that and say that. But, at the same time, it's sort of like, just you saying that doesn't change anything. It doesn't make anything either better or worse. The fact is, we've got to, as individuals, I think, as individual men, find ways to solve that problem. And obviously, different people are going to take different approaches. I'm not going to get into the myriad, sort of versions of quote-unquote solving that problem that I've seen. But for me, it does mean figuring out, like, okay, how to approach things. Because in the past, like, I've had enough times where I've had, some sort of contact with a girl who was interested in me, and I plain and simply did not know how to escalate it in the right manner. And so I ended up tripping over my own feet and screwing things up. And you know what? Maybe from some guy's perspective, wanting to get with women or wanting to sort of modify yourself or improve yourself for the sake of getting with a woman or being more attracted to women, just that alone makes you a simp. Makes you a wimp, makes you a simp, makes you a wet noodle, makes you a spineless freak, or a whatever slang, whatever derogatory term they want to throw out there. It makes you that thing. Even though, for the vast majority of us, wanting to be with women and wanting to figure out how to get with women is just part of who we are as human beings. And again, this is it is so much of an indicator of like a deeper problem going on in the wider world, I think. And this is kind of like where, it's almost like you might never want to talk about politics. I never want to get into current affairs or social issues because of, different reasons. Maybe it's fear of losing your job. Maybe it's a concern with your own physical well-being, that, hey, you might get literally attacked by people. Or it just might be getting socially ostracized, losing all your friends, or, heck, maybe it's even having to do with you having some crush on some girl, and then your opinions on things are, in conflict with her opinions, and, she finds that, to be something that's like a deal breaker for her, so therefore, it's sayonara to you. But it's almost like you inevitably will end up, verging on or at crossing into having to address these issues. And it just seems like all of this is just, it's not about one person. I know I removed that comment. I don't really like that stuff hanging around. Like I've left stuff in the past that I think maybe YouTube deleted it, or maybe it's so far back I just, it was like years ago. But, I know I deleted it, but I will be addressing it here, so maybe it'll kind of live on in some sense through this video. But honestly, like, no, I don't see myself as a simp. I may have moments of weakness. I may have times where I sort of waver, but I don't think being concerned with or trying to figure out with or wanting to understand, even as just sort of like a case study, like, hey, remember that time with that one girl? Yeah, let's not do that again. Or, do that more, or say this more, so don't say that, like, even in that sense, just being concerned about that, or wanting to understand that, that's all part of what I would consider being a conventionally masculine kind of a guy. Okay, you want to understand as a man how to, become and remain and be attractive to women and to get with them. It might not mean every single woman. I have to slow down my speech a bit, but speech pattern or whatever. But it might not be every single one out there, but just in general, okay, here's how to be attractive to women so that the women who are attractive to you'll have a good chance of getting with, like this girl in particular. See, I happen to like girls who have that sort of long, silky black hair and fair complexion. And, the eye color, that can be brown, that can be green, that could be blue. I remember this really, really attractive girl this one time who had green eyes with black hair and really fair complexion. She was actually, I think she was from Afghanistan originally, but she was in one of my Arabic classes, like way back in the day, like back in like 2010 or so. But I happen to like girls who have those kind of features. And obviously there's the other stuff that guys will talk about, other parts of her physique. But this girl at work, she has a lot of those looks, okay? And it's kind of this whole deal of like, okay, I want to know how to be attractive and escalate things and build things with a girl who has those kinds of traits, if I so happen to meet one. And yeah, in this case I happen to. And I think, in all honesty, like, one of the reasons why I bring up this girl is not just because I see her like every friggin' day, because I never take a day off from work, and it's just kind of been work Monday through Friday, especially since COVID hit, but because she's actually an example to me of like why obsessing about any one girl is actually like not the thing to do. It's not even just that it's not the thing to do, it's like there's no point to it. And maybe it has seemed like I have to a certain extent. I think that's just me catching feelings, to be honest with you. Like I see enough things about her that do annoy me from time to time, and things about her that will remind me of like either my sister or the one-itis girl or the ex-girlfriend, that it's stuff that I don't like. So it's not like I'm seeing her as this like angelic being who descended from the heavens above and is this like goddess or this angel walking among us. She's not. She's a human being, okay? But it's sort of like I see her as an example of like, okay, this is why like getting one-itis is not the thing to do. And it's not the thing to do because it's kind of like, for instance, I thought for the longest time, that the girl I called the one-itis girl, or I refer to her as the one-itis girl. For the longest time, I honestly thought that, that girl was like the one, and I screwed up with her, and I should have dumped the toxic abusive ex-girlfriend way earlier, and made myself available for her, and things would have been this way and that way, and blah blah blah. And then I go through working for over a year at the other place, and there was a girl there who I was kind of into. I purposely nixed things that could have gone on with her because all this red pill awareness about like hashtag Me Too and not wanting to end up in a HR worthy situation, and she kind of expressed herself as being very much of a certain ist or ism. But beyond that, like I went through getting beyond that, I went through a year and 3 months working there. Then I moved to this new place. Now it's like, wait, hold on a second. I just met this girl. She's very attractive. She's got all those features that it was like the one-eyed girl, but then like if you added a point or two to her on the quote-unquote, HB scale, if the one-eyed girl was like a, 6.5, then this girl's at least like a 7 or, maybe 7.5, possibly an 8, 8 might be being generous about it, but still, like, just to have, come across a girl like that and be like, wait a minute, hold on a second. So you're telling me that I was bent out of shape, heartbroken, all of that for like 3 years of a girl who really wasn't that attractive when in the light of, being compared to this new girl. And so kind of, yet another example. If I had to put together a bullet point list of why I'm not a simp, well, this would be one of them. Okay, me realizing that, me doing that cross comparison and going, okay, so just in this small pool of people, there's actually yet another more attractive woman. I wonder if I were to expand that pool even further, outside of even like the area I live, the region I live in, the state I live in, the country I live in. I wonder how many other even more attractive women there are out there who are also available and might also have all these other traits that I'm looking for in a woman, So let's not get bent out of shape. Let's not, sublimate ourselves or submit ourselves, to the judgment of one individual, that sort of thing, and attach our entire value to that person or their assessment of me. But there's that, and there's also the fact that like some that. And this is where I'll sort of pivot and, admit to some weakness on my part. One thing that I need to learn is to not really attach too much meaning to what a woman says or does on any specific given day of the week, because like today, it was almost like she was like the polar opposite in a lot of ways from like yesterday. It wasn't like it wasn't like that. It was kind of funny in some sense because the example I'll give is it's around lunchtime, and we were going to get lunch, because they cater lunch at my workplace, and I decided to get some vegetarian food today. I decided to try that out, and I kind of jokingly said to her, "Oh, you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10, let me know what you think," sort of thing, because sort of this joke, because they made Indian food today, and she's Indian, and sort of like she's had her complaints about the catered food in the past, just like other people on the team have had their sort of like their criticisms or their their pluses, their minuses about it, and I was kind of like jokingly asking her like, oh, did she think that this was quality food or not, in light of her being from that culture, that sort of thing. I didn't obviously give her like an essay, I'm not I don't do that kind of stuff, especially not nowadays, but anyways, like later on she sent me messages on Slack, saying she gave it a 3 out of 10, and it didn't have enough sauce or whatever. And the funny thing about that is like I didn't respond right away because I was obviously I was doing work. Hey, another example of how I'm not a simp. Anyways, but I was working on something. I just was focused on that, and I think later, I don't know if this is like this is kind of like I don't know if she was like mad at me or something or annoyed, but I didn't respond right away, and she like came into the lab and she was just kind of like, oh, like almost like she thought I because I don't know if she just thought I said something or if she was like annoyed at me, but it was just kind of funny because she kind of acted a bit hostile, and I was like, oh no, I didn't say anything, and she's kind of like, what? Will you say something? And I was like, no, I didn't say anything. I think I was like laughing at something I heard on YouTube. I was listening to some podcast, and it was some comedians, and they were kind of like, making some jokes or so, and I kind of started laughing, and if you don't see the headphones in, it's like, man, what's that guy laughing about? It's like, there's nothing wrong with that guy. But I kind of like was like thinking to myself, like, wait, did she think I said something, or was she not? It's kind of like, okay, then why would she be like annoyed if I didn't respond right away? And I did send her some messages later on, just making some joke about that I was something along the lines of like I was glad that they actually had cheese in the vegetarian dish, like paneer, because I thought they might slip in some tofu, because that's kind of usually the go-to with we're gonna make this cuisine, these dishes from this, let's say it's German culture, or whatever, like some cuisine, but since that cuisine doesn't necessarily have like a lot of heavy like vegetarian or vegan dishes, they'll be like, oh well, instead of having chicken or beef, we'll have tofu. It's like tofu is the go-to. It's like, well, we don't know how to make a vegetarian dish from like, I don't know, Mongolia, which I would really get a kick out of it if they made some Mongolian dish. Like, that would be like, okay, you guys are taking it up a notch. But it's kind of like, okay, we don't know how to make vegetarian or vegan dish from this culture, this cuisine, so we're just gonna throw some tofu and pour some sauce over it, or throw some spinach and some sauce in there, and we'll call it vegetarian something like like they called it vegan sausage the other day, and it was just basically quiche. And I was just like, I thought to myself, like, you could just call it quiche and I'd be okay with it, because I got a little excited. I was like, vegan sausage, like, is this Morningstar? It was like, nah, it's just quiche. I should have gotten the biscuits and gravy, but I don't know. It's stuff like that where it's sort of like, you have her like sort of socializing with you the day before, talking, chatting, joking, and then maybe she kind of makes some comment that, oh, you're weird, or that's weird, or something. You think, oh, does she lose interest in me? And then the next day it's like, she's acting like this, and it's like, okay, like, dude, don't take it so seriously. Don't start putting spins and interpretations and going, oh, does this mean this, or does this mean that, or don't be like putting your time or effort or energy into that. And look, as far as her being single or taken, my most recent intel on the situation is that she's single. And my most recent intel is like from about a week ago. And from the sounds of things, like, she comes from a way more conservative background, which doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot, I know, to folks who are from more of a Western background, because I don't think I need to go into that. It's sort of like, it's kind of just become like a label, and they can mean whoever they are want it to mean, under given set of circumstances, but in the sounds of it, it sounds like she comes from an intact family. Father's in charge. They're kind of conservative or traditional, conventional, and it's sort of more of a, you got to meet the father first sort of a thing before you can seriously date the girl. Which, honestly, like, I wish things were still like that. I think there would be a lot less drama and a lot less negative fallout if it was like that. Which isn't to say that every father out there is like this ideal, model of like conventional positive masculinity and yada yada. There are enough examples of quote unquote bad fathers out there, or horrible fathers. But I kind of feel like there'd be a lot less drama, a lot less nonsense if things were more of that conventional mindset. There'd be a lot less of this sort of having to figure out how she felt, and what does this mean, and was I alpha enough, bro? It wouldn't be like that, I don't think. I mean, you would honestly have to still be competent and get your act together and be very much in charge and have a direction and a mission and all that. But there would be less about, trying to do that whilst also figuring out all these like social interaction tricks and what to say and how to interact and whatnot. It would be more like you could just focus on being it's almost like the traditional conservative head of the household, father figure, married man kind of a thing. And as long as you were doing that, and handling your business, like, she would have respect for you in all likelihood. Much like my grandparents in particular on my father's side of the family, where it's very much like, my great grandfather, he met my would have been, then future grandfather on a train trip across what was, then, South Asia, and struck up a conversation with him, learned all this stuff about him, what he was doing, who he was, where he came from, education, career, all that, perspective on this and that, politics, history, religion, whatever. And by the end of the whole train trip, it was kind of like, well, this is the guy I want to, have marry my daughter. And, my grandmother had a very positive, healthy, functional, good relationship with her father, my great grandfather. And, it was a case of like, this is the guy that my father chose for me. And, I respect my father's judgment that he chose the right guy. And, I'll render that kind of respect unto him because, he obviously like showed that, he quote unquote had what it takes to, be a good husband and, or, great husband and a great father and, great head of the household and that sort of thing. And, even though my grandmother, she died very young, I think she was 49 or 50, but, through the time that they were together, I mean, she was very much like, respectful and loving and even had admiration, I would say, for my grandfather, And, meeting a girl who's from a family like that, where it's very much like, they respect the father's judgment, when it comes to big decisions like that. Like, that's very much the kind of girl that I would, want to get with. And it sounds like, and I could be wrong. I'm not going to try and build her up to be some sort of angel, like I said in the past. But it very much seems like she's kind of like that girl, or that kind of girl, And which again isn't to say that they can't pull. It's not like they can't pull a 180 and like lead you blindsided. Like, wow, I didn't expect that from her, But to get back on that, my big point. Look, like if you as a guy are catching feelings for a girl, it doesn't make you a simp. If you're concerned with, trying to get with this girl or that girl or whatever her name, whoever she is, look, stay away from this girl, okay? She's mine. No, but anyways, if you are concerned with like building a relationship with a girl or like getting with a girl, that doesn't make you a simp, okay? Now, obviously there is such a point, where you get to where you're kind of like waffling back and forth over things and, like paralysis by analysis, and it's kind of like, okay, like you need to stop doing that, dude. That's not good for you. It's not helping. But just the concern itself doesn't make you a simp. I don't even get those terms, all that much anymore, because like it's kind of like some of these words, they used to have concrete meaning, and if it wasn't like you were literally like doing that which would make you, someone who that term could be applied to, whatever the term specifically was, like people wouldn't call you that. But these terms have kind of either lost their meaning or they gained new meaning, like while we're on the topic, the term I don't even know if I want to throw it out there. It's not a curse word, but it's definitely derogatory. But it's a term that used to refer to a man who had a unfaithful wife, and especially if she was like doing that in public, and she even had a kid with the other guy, or it was rumored she had a kid with this other guy outside of the marriage. He'd be referred to by that term. And nowadays it's just become a term that's like, okay, I disagree with you in terms of politics, or religion or whatever, so I'm going to call you this thing. It's like it's lost its original meaning. And I think that's the same thing with the word simp. Like, I'll delete any comments where I'm, being called those things. I'll try and address that sort of stuff in a video, but I mean, I will remove those kinds of comments. This is not the place for that. It's not like people can't disagree with me or say, hey, I don't think your approach is the right one, or I don't think it's productive or helpful or whatever. But I mean, it's kind of like the YouTube guidelines, and keep your comments respectful. So, in order to not become a place where there are all these disrespectful comments being left, I'll have to delete that kind of stuff. Of course, the irony being that probably somebody on YouTube looked at Dark Magician's latest stuff and was like, oh, this Dark Magician guy, he's leaving disrespectful comments. He says American women this and that, and therefore it's disrespectful, and we're gonna shadow ban him. We're not gonna outright ban him, but anybody who wants to see his comments won't see them, because we quote unquote shadow banned him. But then people will be saying, hey, I saw you left a comment, but I can't read it because something, But, yeah. I mean, this took a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. It's like 36, almost 37 minutes. Probably because I got stuck in traffic. But, anywho, no, in conclusion, I'm not a simp. I'm not. I'm just some guy who... Maybe I caught feelings for a female coworker. Maybe I've had my romantic problems and struggles. Who hasn't? If you're a dude, you probably fallen in love with some girl or had feelings for some girl at some point in your life. And whether or not you want to admit it, you probably failed at some point. It's kind of like when they had Joker on Fresh and Fit's podcast, and you're asking him, like, was there any moment when you what made you get red pilled, or what was your red pill moment, your red pill awakening? And he didn't say it was like any one particular thing, but it was sort of a series of scenarios he was in, working at a club, or working as a manager at some store somewhere. And yeah, the examples he gave, again, when I think about the term simp, look, when I'm working with this girl, I'm not fawning over her. I'm not telling her that she's so amazing and beautiful. I've literally never commented on her physical attractiveness. I know she's seen me check her out, and there's been enough times where it's sort of like it's kind of funny in some sense, because they're supposed to just be coworkers, right? But she'll be walking in front of me, and there's times when I'm not even looking at her. I'm literally looking off someplace else, and I'm thinking about other things. But I'll notice her, looking back at me while she's looking at her phone, and being looking back, and almost saying, oh, is he checking me out, or where's he looking at, or I don't know, or maybe just wanting to see who's behind her. It could have absolutely nothing to do with me, but no, I don't go fawn over her. I don't tell her she's so amazing or beautiful or awesome, or that sort of thing. I generally speaking treat her like she's another dude. But at the same time, if you're a guy, come on. You see an attractive woman, you're gonna notice it, okay? Kind of pretend like you're just this red pill meathead. You're I'm so tough. I don't got no feelings. Any woman tries to get me wrapped around her finger, oh, I'm gonna slap that hoe down, blah blah blah. It's no, you're not, dude. And even if you, if you literally were that much of a dick, just a heartless, I don't want to see it, no, not heartless, but just this sort of prick. I mean, you go around being like that to people, like, somebody's gonna kick your ass eventually, you know? Somebody's going to. And, you know, it's kind of funny that I'm even talking about this sort of stuff right now, because like, last night, I was listening to this, like, you know, it was like a scary story sort of series, and one of them was literally about a guy who was at his workplace, and, you know, some flirting occurred back and forth between him and a female coworker. He didn't know that she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend just, like, started threatening him and, like, calling him at all hours of the night, you know, and on these fake numbers, and just, like, you know, saying, oh, I'm gonna mess you up, or, you know, yelling at him all these slurs and whatnot, you know, even racist stuff, all that. And, of course, the end of the story, like, he quits the job and decides to just, you know, I'm out of here. This is just some gig, you know, temporary retail gig or whatever. Just need to make some extra cash, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, I go into work today, and it's like, it's kind of on my mind, like, was that story about me? Was that me you were talking about? But yeah, I don't think everything's an exact analog for that. I'm probably reading into things, you know, reading stuff into that's not there. And in conclusion, no, I'm not a simp. LOL, I'm not. But anyways, debating whether or not to upload this. I probably will. So, anyways, I'll see you folks around. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.